You're listening to the Digital Deep Dive, where we tackle the newest trends, strategies, and pain points shaping growth across the digital landscape. From Amazon and D2C to international expansion, join our host and e-commerce leaders across multiple industries for in-depth discussions on how to maximize your brands in the digital arena. Now, here's your host, Aaron Conant.
Well, hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Digital Deep Dive podcast. I'm your host, Aaron Conant, and today we're going to talk about the fragmentation of commerce and everything that it entails. We did a lot of conversations around omni-channel as a whole, but this idea of how fragmented everything is getting and how do we approach it is something that's come up. So I thought invite a long-time friend, Nicole here, right, from Blue Wheel, all-around great friend. Forever now, it seems like, even back to the retail Bloom days, right? Like,
yeah,
crazy. Anyways, I'll kick it over to you if you want to do a brief intro on yourself. That'd be great. And then let's jump into this crazy topic of fragmentation.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. So I'm Nicole Reich. I'm the CGO at Blue Wheel, previously Retail Bloom. Been in the space on the digital side for over a decade and been working with Aaron for 8 years, 7 or 8 years.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's changed and it's evolved. And, to your point, we've been really thinking about how we want to work with our brands into the future, given all of the change. And I think in general, within e-com, things always change. Like that's the only constant about our industry, right? But I would say over the last 6 to 12 months, it's kind of turned up all over again with different tech, with different AI, with different channels coming out into the market, how consumers search for brands, right? So we've been evolving on our end, and the biggest thing that we see is that our customers, the brands, we found that about 67% of them say that this fragmentation issue of not being able to see where their consumers are, where the data is, how their brand looks, is the biggest thing that's keeping them up at night. So on our side, what we're thinking about is like, how do we chip away at that? And what does that actually mean? Because I don't think it's just paid media fragmentation. I think it's way beyond that.
No, I would. You said a couple of things that we're going to get into this fragmentation piece, but you're right. I was just wrapped up a call with a longtime friend in the brand side. And, they're commenting that in this last even 8 to 12 months, the rate of change in the amount of work that needs to be done from updating your content and all the changes because of the LLMs to showing up in the LLMs to having a Reddit agency to having to now be on TikTok. And oh, by the way, on top of that, everybody's asking for media dollars and you're required to put out more content. But the content you're supposed to be putting out is constantly changing. Like,
yeah,
you're right. It's like exasperation. Like, when does it stop? And it was like a year and a half ago. I think people were like, wait a minute, I think I'm getting a handle on this. And then, it sounds like you're, saying,
it's interesting you say that. When I talk to brands a lot of the time, it's super overwhelming, right? And even on the agency side for us, it's I would say it's overwhelming, but it's one of those times where I think you step back and you think about what you want your strategy to be. Like, what is our North Star? Simplify it first, right? What do we want our KPIs to be? What type of brand do we want to be? It's one of those times that you pause so that you can get really intentional about what you want to accomplish. And then once you know what you want to accomplish, then the tools end up going from, hey, I'm just going to explore everything to I need a tool or a person or content for this specific thing, right? I think in marketing on either end, we're spending a lot of time just like looking at everything. And again, to your point, it's overwhelming. Every new tool is another thing that I probably wasn't doing that I need to do now, right? And we don't need to be everything to everyone, and we don't need to do all things in order to be successful. So ensuring that how are we defining success? What are the real things that we need? And then going after those. I think that makes a big difference. And you get to this like guppy bite piece where you're, clawing away at things instead of trying to swallow everything all at one time.
Yeah, it's, I totally agree. What I've seen that happen, because I had the question that's kind of similar, which is around the AI. And how do we handle all these AI tools and everything that's coming out? You can't evaluate everything because there's 100 new every day because anybody could build one off of any LLM that's out there. It is taking a step back and looking at the issue you're trying to solve for and then seeing if you can solve it internally, or maybe just update the process behind it. Next one is, okay, well, if we do this, how much time can we save for people? And then I can put a dollar figure on it. And then you
Yeah.
go, you look for the AI, and are you going to build it, or are you going to go buy it? But at least you'll know what your return on investment is going to be based on whether or not it can solve it. And it's very interesting. It's the same thing that you were saying, and I totally agree. It's time for, as a brand, especially a mid-size and larger brand, to maybe take a pause. Obviously, not for 6 months, but what are you even trying to solve for? Because there are a million tools out there.
Right.
Man.
Yeah. And then I think another, like the second step around, let's assume we've got our goal, we have a refresh perspective of what we need. Looking at our teams, how are they set up? What do they do? How do they collaborate? Right. Given that the fragmentation on the consumer side is more than it ever has been, that also ends up setting up these teams internally that are also fragmented. I'll give you an example. We have a longstanding, pretty big brand, enterprise top 100 brand in the CPG space. And we've been working with them for a really, really long time on Amazon within Vendor Central. And they came to us for TikTok Shop, which is great. It was a different team, but they didn't even know that we had worked with them on the Amazon side. And that is because teams are so big, right? Big company means even bigger teams. I totally get that. But I think that's another part of this planning is like, how do we get these different channels that are within digital, that are still fragmented on the brand side, to come to talk to each other? Because it's not just now, hey, the sales team and e-com and Amazon or Walmart and then D2C and then TikTok, right? Bring those all together, to your point, in LLMs is super, super important. And they know a lot that they can use together instead of keeping it separate. That was pretty interesting to me too, which is great. We're happy to have it, but it's like, oh, wow, that would be really helpful if you knew that, because the work that you're doing on TikTok will impact Amazon and vice versa.
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? Because you're talking about fragmentation, and I was thinking of fragmentation of, media or teams or retailers or content. But then you mentioned the fragmentation of the buyer, the consumer, and where they're going, which is actually, I think, driving all of this, right? That it used to be 7 touch points, and now it's like 37 touch points. And it's because they are being reached all over, whether it is TikTok or it is Amazon or Walmart or Meta or wherever. Is that what
Yes.
you just said that? And it flipped a switch for me. Like, oh, this is actually driven by the consumer. Then you need to understand where your consumer's at, which is hard to do at the end of the day.
Correct. Yeah. So you have one consumer across all of these channels, but then on the brand side, you have all of these teams that are separate, all trying to go after that same consumer, right? And they all have different tactics and they all have different approaches. And when we can bring those together, well, now that consumer on the other side has a more cohesive experience as they're going through these touch points. And there is true connection between, hey, I found you on your organic social. I then saw you a UGC for you. Then I went out to Walmart, didn't purchase, but I got retargeted. Hey, then I went to Amazon, and hopefully a lot of brands, oh, I ended up at your D2C side, right? But I'm only one consumer. So I think that's another unique way to look at it. And I think once you get that across to the teams, they're like, oh, shoot, that is why we need to start bringing those together.
Yeah, it makes total sense. I mean, all I do is talk to brands on digital strategy every day. And it's just hitting me now while we're talking is that is the driver. The interesting thing then is that's driving this rapid, I would say, need to tackle the fragmentation that's happened, because it used to be Amazon primarily, right? There's digitally native brands, but for larger enterprise brands, it was primarily Amazon as a whole, and everything else was an afterthought, right? At that point, you had a different paid search and social agency, but it didn't really tie into Amazon. But now with TikTok ramping up and I think really fueling a lot of this, I think TikTok has actually fueled the need for videos on Amazon, and people now just looking more at the images than at the text to convert. But all these things are working together, and that consumer, and it's different for each person, is spending different amounts of time. But now you actually have to address all of them. They used to just say, okay, whatever, I'm going to cut and paste my Amazon content onto Walmart or Target or Home Depot as much as you could. And now you can't do that, right? Like,
Right. And not only, and there's 2 points in there, right? Like not only because you have one person going across all of these, so you have a human that needs something cohesive, but to your point, even beyond that is that now you really don't have a choice because these LLMs are playing off of each other. And if they're not all the same or they're not all optimized in the right ways, they're not going to serve you. So we're seeing a huge decrease in organic traffic as some consumers shift from traditional search to LLMs, right? And the more optimized you are on Walmart, the better ChatGPT will frame up, right? And Reddit, to your point, to the other channels. So these all kind of work together. And I think I would see that more as a motivation than a getting scared about it, because it's like, oh, now I have even more reason to do the things as marketers that I know I need to do. We all know that we want to have a cohesive brand presentation. It's a little harder to say than to accomplish, but now you have extra motivation in the sense of that ROI. If we don't do this, we can expect decrease in organic of X, and that will cost us Y, right? So I think that part is getting a little bit easier too. Again, bringing it all together for the brands to start looking at it more top level before, instead of just going to the bottom and going all the way up.
yeah, I think it's also, tough for brands. I mean, there's been some large, rifts that have gone on, reduction in force. And so, companies are hoping people are going to use AI to supplement. I don't see that happening a lot yet. It's more, okay, we're just going to go find an agency to do it for us. And so I've had like Reddit agencies pop up. Why? Because these LLMs, it's the third step. It's retailer, it's brand, and then it's Reddit. And it used to be just Reddit and other things. And I think Reddit has pretty much come to the top as pretty much the clear cut third. Some people say yes, some people say no, but from what I can see, that's it. So all of a sudden, you have to have a Reddit agency. I did a podcast with one because you pretty much have to, you can't ignore it.
Yeah.
I mean, I had a brand that was trying to figure out how a challenger brand was eating away so much margin, and they weren't out spending on Amazon. They weren't winning in search. They weren't winning on Google. They weren't winning anywhere. They jumped into Reddit, which they had not touched. And this small challenger brand was on every single one of their Reddit threads. Right. And so now it's like, okay, well, I needed a Facebook, right? Insta,
Right.
I needed that strategy, and I needed an Amazon strategy. Now I need a Walmart strategy. Now I need a TikTok strategy. Now I need a Reddit strategy. And right behind it is an LLM, like,
Shopping.
yeah, this agentic piece. And there will be chat
But to
GPT
that,
agencies.
yeah. But to that point, though, if we develop something at the top more holistically and we bring them together, then they're not going to be fighting each other. Hopefully they're working together, right? And you have your social team using certain tools or certain tactics or looking at certain KPIs that then the ecom team can work off of, then the D2C team can work off of, right? Like it's forcing people to come together because we need more budget potentially to do that. That means we need to get more effective. And again, it just is this simpler experience for the customer and for the teams when they work together.
Right. It leads me back to like when people talk about conversion rate optimization, and when people see a meta ad or something from UGC that then shows up on the direct consumer site and there's like a break and people like, this isn't really what I was looking for. Is this the same brand? What I think has happened is this rapid need to produce lots of content, update every marketplace with content, constantly put out stuff, UGC, but also ads on Meta, now potential for Reddit, but also having SEO optimized, GEO optimized web pages, because there's so much anxiety. And I say, like, I think there's never a total solve for it, but what you're saying is right. Is like people feel like sometimes it's just out of control. And that's going back to what you were saying is like, take a pause, not a total reset, but what at the end of the day, what is that goal and what are you trying to do? And then how does that dictate everything else? And that can be paid media strategy, couponing, everything across the board. And then layering out that helps guide, okay, well, how are we going to treat Father's Day, what's coming up, right? How are we going to treat back to school, Prime Day, Cyber 5, Turkey 12, whatever it is now, Turkey 45. I think that can relieve a lot of the anxiety that I'm hearing from brands right now. And then You need a measurement tool on the back end, show it's working. Like,
yeah. So, I want to dig into the content piece because I think that is the one that's coming up the most right now. And I'll use that as like a use case of one of the brands that we work with that I think is doing a really good job of thinking about this and tackling it. So they have first a digital e-content team that work with, and they have a house of brands. That person is owning the strategy across all of the channels. And we're supporting them in building out the best practices and the playbooks for each of these channels. So in general, here is the brand book, we'll call it, right? And what they want to do, who they're targeting, their differentiators, what their brand feels like and looks like, right? Then they have all of these different e-retailers, Target, Kroger, Amazon, Walmart, a D2C site that isn't super large, but still meaningful, right? And you have one person that's managing the experience across those channels from a content perspective organically. And we build out playbooks that are fairly similar, but a little bit different. Walmart is a little bit different than Target versus Amazon, right? So what are the different tweaks that we need to make within these playbooks that are optimized for those channels, right? And then what we do is we do a gap analysis. So if a PDP is 8 out of 10 and your best seller is on Amazon or 2 out of 10, we focus there, right? You set up a prioritization schedule of now we know what we're measuring. Here are the gaps that we have. Let's put them together, right? Then the next piece is the measurement. And I want to dig into that a little bit because I think on my end, truthfully, measuring the organic search or queries of LLMs of like an Alexa, right, for example, versus what's happening in traditional search is not as clear as what it should be. Right. So if we look at our search traffic, we're seeing search traffic go down, but we don't know if that's actually down because of demand or if it's because they're switching from search to Alexa. Right. And the measurement of that is not as clear as what it needs to be. The counter I have to the solution short term of that is that at the end of the day, yes, we're looking at traffic, but our number one North Star should be conversion. And when we go to these platforms and consumers convert, we know that that's going to impact how we show up in a positive way organically. And we can track our bestseller ranking on Amazon, for example, to measure that ROI. So all that to say, I think brands are really getting stuck in like, okay, well, how am I going to measure Alexa versus traditional search? And it's like, maybe there's a tool out there. I haven't found one that I'm like super 100% confident in. But regardless of that, we do need to track conversion. We do need to track share of voice like we typically do. We do need to track BSR, right? So that's one of those things that it's like, do we really, really need it at this second? Or do we accept that this is where it is? Eventually, we're going to get that reporting and we can focus on the things we can control right now, like conversion, like our BSR, like a good brand experience. So I think there's like a shift there, right? Instead of spending the energy on like, is this real? Is it not? How accurate is it? It's like, well, just go back to the KPIs you know are accurate and work there.
Yeah, I mean, and then that conversion piece, it's funny how it all goes back to content, which you were talking about is optimizing the content. Like, keep it simple, right? It's back to the basics. It's interesting that it's always going back to that because you can have huge paid media budget, but if your detail page isn't built to convert, right? Or your landing page on your D2C site or whatever, like drive all the traffic you want. It's actually hurting the algorithm, right? It's hurting you in the algorithm at the end of the day. I used to play this game back when I was on the brand side. I had a super low budget, but it was very targeted. So you'd have the large brands spending huge amounts of money targeting everybody for, a page view, but with a super low conversion rate, they had to spend more money because they kept getting pushed down the algorithm as a whole. I think now, you have to have a tool for paid media on Amazon now. You have to have an agency that's got a tool, or you have to have a tool to be doing this, or you're flushing money down the toilet. That's just
Yeah. And I think the paid media side actually is getting solved a little bit quicker than the others. Like, so we use Sky, right? And all of that paid media is in one place. We're able to see our budgets, the performance, right? So now when we have all of these different retail media sites or retail media campaigns or a D2C or a social, we look at it holistically, right? And we're able to look at the performance of the creative on one channel versus the next. We're able to look at the CPCs and the ROAS, like our simple metrics all in one place. That part I feel a little bit more comfortable about, honestly. Now, to your point that we talked about, I think before we even hopped on here, some of those tools are expensive.
Yeah.
Fair. And they're also becoming a little bit more essential though, right? So figuring out what that cost analysis is if we have this all segmented, we don't get to measure incrementality. We don't get to see our conversion rates or move our budgets around quickly, right? What is the cost of that? And if I did it, I'm going to say the more expensive route, do I see better performance, right? And to your point that you mentioned, like that's where a lot of times you leverage the agencies because they get better discounts on that type of stuff.
Yeah, I'm an agency person
Right.
because I mean, trying to stay on top of all.
Well, we're biased, but
yeah, on the brand side, I just wanted an agency like that's. I need an Amazon agency. I build it by the time we got to into the 8-figure mark. It's pretty obvious even back then. I need somebody that's going to be staying on top of this stuff on a day-to-day basis, right? Like I couldn't. I had to remove myself and take on more of a strategic role. I either empire build and put 4 people, 5 people underneath me, or for a fraction of the cost. I mean, from a cost standpoint, it just makes more sense. It did for me. I know a lot of companies want to build it out, and I get it, but right now the rate of change is so fast; it's ridiculous. Like you have to either have a team of people just nonstop researching, taking a look at testing and learning, or you leverage your agency to do it.
Right.
Yeah.
And definitely different skill sets too. Like as much as we'd love to have one paid media person do it all, you're missing out on so much because each media platform now is so much more complex in a positive way. Like the audience targeting that we can do, the bidding structures, the amount of creative we can test, like all of that is amazing things that as when you want to run effective media campaigns, that's all great to have, but it takes longer, right? And to have one person or 2 people be able to know programmatic, podcast, search, DSP, right? Like it's hard to find that type of talent, I would say. And to your point, even when you have that type of talent, it's hard to stay on top of everything, right? So having a group that all they do is their lane that comes together is obviously beneficial.
Yeah, where does this all go in like, I mean, I say agency now, where does this all go in like 3 to 4 years, 3 to 5 years? I mean, Paul, your crystal ball, as this tech keeps advancing, it's interesting right now because not a lot of people trust AI to go execute stuff without human in the loop.
Yeah.
But at some point in time, it probably will. If they keep getting better. If they don't keep getting better, right? Like, forget it. But if they do keep refining, getting better, I think there's going to be ways to create content really quickly that's on brand. That's
for
not,
sure.
if you can get the guardrails and it won't go hallucinate nonstop. If you can set guardrails around paid media spend and how it's executed, we're going to be in an interesting spot really quickly here.
Yeah. I think that you're going to be able to do a lot more with less. And I think that the e-com industry, because we've always been in the beginning when we started kind of like in a different area of the company, kind of poo-pooed an afterthought, we're all already pretty used to being scrappy. And I think that these AI tools even further allow us to do that. I think that these tools and these agents that the brands can create or agencies can create are only as good as the person who creates them, right? So you still need the person building it out for the brand or whatever use case it might be. And that strategy behind it needs to be really, really good. And once you have that, then you can have executors that are making sure we're watching these agents and doing our things, but they should have more time to do the other things that sometimes we don't pay attention to as much, right? Or we're not thinking 6 months in advance because we're barely trying to be afloat, stay above water today, right? So I think that I'm personally excited about that because if we really lean into them, we can, again, do more with less. And it just allows us to do more things with our brands, but build better relationships, help understand what new audiences we want to go after, really think about innovation, spend all that time on all of those other things that, again, end up going in the back burner that maybe you don't get to until after the holiday season, right? So I think it's exciting. I think on the advertising side, the LLMs like ChatGPT, how fast that ad platform is growing, I think that's going to be pretty meaningful. It'll be interesting to see how those media platforms connect with the retailers. So like for Walmart, how does the fee structure end up working and who's ultimately paying for that? I'm interested in watching.
Yeah, I moderated a panel on agentic commerce last Thursday. And that was one of the topics, is what happens to retail media and how big is the impact? And good conversation. I don't think it goes away, but it drastically changes. And as far as the excitement, I'm like 95% excited for it. And then 5%, just wishing you could go back to the early days where you had Google, Facebook, and did AMS ads on Amazon. And that was it, right? They started pitching, AMG back in the day.
Amazon Media Group.
Yeah.
My gosh, I remember that
great.
long time.
And the halo effect, like those are like nostalgia now. We're not going back, but as cool as everything that's coming and what it allows you to do and the personalization and the cool new tech that's popping up, it's amazing. And then the other side is like, I liked bidding 5 cents or a dime on a keyword on AMS platform.
Yeah. I think it's more so like, if you can't beat them, join them, right? Like if we can't find out a solution that allows us to be this effective on our own, then we need to be able to adapt it, right? Or we're going to be left behind. So if you would have asked me maybe 3 or 4 months ago, I probably would have been less comfortable, but I've spent so much time being in Claude through the last several months, and just to see the power of what it can do. And, I do a lot of market research. I do a lot of like cost analysis. What do we want to invest in? What do we not? And like, I have a bot for everything. I just drop in my information and it spits me back out this report. Here's the competitor analysis, the SWOT analysis. Here's why you should do it, why you shouldn't. Like, it's awesome. Like, that stuff would take me hours and hours to do, and I get it within a couple of days now.
So crazy. It's so good. So you're hyped about it. This is good to hear.
Hyped.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It'd be bad if you were totally freaked out by it, like you're freaking everybody else out about it. But I mean, you live in this space every day. You guys are doing awesome work with awesome brands. So really do appreciate you jumping on the podcast today and kind of diving in this fragmentation piece. Like, any last key thoughts as we wrap up here?
Yeah. I mean, just keeping it simple again, right? Like taking a step back, pausing, think about what your North Star is, think about what your KPIs are, and then plan around those instead of chasing a bunch of shiny objects, because there is a ton of shiny objects right now and it can be overwhelming and too much. So I think the brands that will do well is staying true to their brand, to their strategy, and sticking to that, right? Doing more with less within the lane that they know they want to do.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, this has been an absolute blast. Nicole, thanks so much for your time today. With that, we're going to wrap up this episode of the Digital Deep Dive. Thanks, everybody, for listening in.
Thank you.